Hello from Europe. I'm happy to share with you some European experiences of synodality. They invite us to face reality with courage and wisdom, but also with joy and hope. First, synodality is linked to the sexual abuse crisis. Second, synodality is a gospel-inspired way of self-evangelization. And third, synodality is a complex and conflictive process. First, synodality is linked to the sexual abuse crisis. Let us start this European story from its very beginning. And here, like elsewhere, the beginning of synodality was the sexual abuse crisis. Studies on sexual abuse within the Church were conducted in many countries in Europe. They showed how these crimes were committed by priests and covered up by bishops who protected the Church and not the victims. A French commission, for example, showed that since 1950, more than 300,000 minors were abused by more than 3,000 ecclesial perpetrators. This number is incredible, but it's also exemplary for Europe, but also for other continental churches. The extent of this problem takes your breath away. Pope Francis himself linked it to clericalism. To say no to abuse is to say an emphatic no to all forms of clericalism. We have to get rid of the structural sin of clericalism because it is the most striking, systemic reason for all kinds of abuse. We have to overcome it in the name of Jesus, for the sake of the victims, and also for the sake of our Church. By facing this reality, we can learn a lot. Let me tell you the story of a young theologian who studied theology at a Roman university in a quite conservative style. Working for the Papal Commission for the Protection of Minors, she was sent to Ireland to conduct interviews with survivors of sexual abuse. Being confronted with their stories, she experienced a theological conversion. She had to give up her Roman style of doing theology. Listening to survivors, hearing them quotation Nelle Morton to their own speech, this makes theology a truly synodal enterprise. A shared walk among equals, following the footprints of Jesus. This leads me to the second European experience I want to share with you. Synodality is a gospel-inspired way of self-evangelization. According to Pope Francis, the only remedy for all types of clericalism is synodality. The synodal reframing of our church is a long journey because clericalism and co-clericalism are deeply rooted in our Catholic mentality. We are called to break with old ecclesial habits and to find new ones, inspired, encouraged, and driven by the life-giving Spirit of God. Before evangelizing our countries, we have to evangelize ourselves. In order to gain new credibility, we have to overcome all the well-known obstacles of our pastoral mission in the world. Imbalance of power, lack of participation, absence of gender justice, homophobia, and all the other issues raised by voices from all over the world. Confronting us with these global issues, synodality initiates a fundamental pastoral conversion of our entire Church. It becomes a society of Jesus, like the religious order of Pope Francis, a companionship of disciples on the roads of our times. Walking the story of Jesus, we become living parts of it, socii and sociae of Jesus. Synodality in that sense means the shared path, synhodos, of all followers of his way of life. Moreover, according to Pope Francis, there is not only synodality ad intra, inside the Church, but also synodality ad extra, outside the Church. Synodality is a shared way of all people of goodwill, whether they believe in God or not. In a largely secular continent like Europe, this open idea of synodality is a great source for pastoral creativity. My third point. Synodality is a complex and conflictive process. On our way of becoming a less clerical and more synodal church in Europe, we face a lot of conflicts and tensions. This is a primary spiritual challenge, because it means that we have to listen to other positions in order to question our own. Deus semper maior. God is always bigger than my own position. Not everybody is willing or able to do this. And this creates the problem of an increasing asymmetric tribalism in our church. Pope Francis is a master of Ignatian dialectics, but he seems to underestimate this spiritual problem of church politics. Tribalism means that certain tribes of the people of God separate themselves from others by locking themselves into their own ideas. This tribalism is asymmetric because it is to be found mainly on the right wing of our church, where Catholic extremists follow authoritarian ideas. It is similar to the problem of right-wing radicalization in our societies. The only way of overcoming this is to listen to the stories even of these people, without giving up our own ideals of a more inclusive, open and synodal church. Asymmetric tribalization needs asymmetric patience and courage as a synodal testimony for the open and vulnerable way of Jesus. Only this can open up closed hearts and minds. May God bless all our efforts to find common ground. And doing this, may God make us happy people, following Jesus with joy and hope. Let me conclude this sharing of European experiences with a French phrase of encouragement, which is also a wonderful phrase of farewell. Bon courage.